Welcome to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live, where we offer the news, weather, traffic, sports, information, and entertainment our commercial drivers want to hear. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson. Speaking of entertainment, Grand Funk Railroad changed the face of rock and roll and the American music scene. They were the voice of a generation and considered the biggest live rock act in America. Hundreds of thousands of people flocked to their concerts and bought their albums. They're still going strong and rocking it after 54 years. The band has amassed 13 gold and 10 platinum albums with songs like We're an American Band, Locomotion, Some Kind of Wonderful, I'm Your Captain, Shining On, and Walk Like a Man. Don Brewer is a founding member of the group formed by him, Mark Farner, and Mel Shocker. He's considered one of the most celebrated drummers in classic rock history. Before joining Grand Funk, he had his first top 40 hit in 1966 with I Who Have Nothing. He wrote Grand Funk's huge hit, We're an American Band. He also played drum licks and sang on the song. Don also wrote Shining On and Walk Like a Man. He was also the lead singer on the song Some Kind of Wonderful, which is still played on classic rock stations to this day.
I don't need a whole lot of money. I don't need a big fine car. I got everything that a man could want. I got more than I could ask for. I don't have to run around. I don't have to stay out all night. 'Cause I got me a sweet loving woman. And she knows just how to treat me right. Well, my baby, she's alright. Well, my baby's clean out of sight. Don't you know that she's some kind of wonderful. She's some kind of wonderful. Yes, she is. She's some kind of wonderful. Yeah, 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 yeah. When I hold her in my arms, you know she sets my soul on fire. Ooh, when my baby kisses me, my heart becomes filled with desire. When she wraps her loving arms around me, about to drive me out of my mind. Yeah, when my baby kisses me, chills run up and down my spine. And my baby, she's alright. Oh, my baby's clean out of sight. Don't you know that she is? She's some kind of wonderful. She's some kind of wonderful. Yes, she is. She's some kind of wonderful. Yeah, 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 yeah. Now, is there anybody got a sweet little woman like mine? There got to be somebody got a sweet little woman like mine. Yeah. Now, can I get a witness? Can I get a witness? Well, can I get a witness? 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 I'm talking about my baby. She's some kind of wonderful. Talking about my baby. She's some kind of wonderful. Talking about my baby. She's some kind of wonderful. Talking about my baby. She's some kind of wonderful. Talking about my baby. She's some kind of wonderful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's some kind of wonderful. Talking about my baby. She's some kind of wonderful. She's some kind of wonderful. She's some kind of
I have Don Brewer from Grand Funk Railroad with me today, and it's an honor. Welcome, Don. Thank you for being with me today.
Good morning, Shelley.
Hello. I'm just amazed. I was reading through your biography. You have had quite the career and background. You started your first band at the age of 12. You're considered one of the most celebrated drummers in classic rock history. You had your first top 40 hit in 1966 with I Who Have Nothing. Then in 1969, you formed Grand Funk Railroad with Mark and Mel in Flint, Michigan. The band's big hit in 1973, We're an American Band, which was a huge hit. You not only wrote that, but you sang while playing drum licks. Wow. You also wrote Shinin' On and Walk Like a Man. And you were the lead singer on the song Some Kind of Wonderful. I mean, you're kind of a Renaissance man.
I've been very fortunate. And ever since I can remember, I always wanted to be in rock and roll. Ever since I saw Elvis Presley do blue suede shoes on the Ed Sullivan Show, I was hooked on rock and roll. So the rest of it all just came because it had to.
Sure. But what great influences to listen to all of that, you know?
Sure. I love the fact that we are passing it down to other generations. People go back and young kids will look up Grand Funk Railroad and they get mesmerized by that style. Just like we used to do with all of the blues greats and all of that kind of stuff. And you take from them and then you make it your own. So I'm honored to be in that category where the young people listen to our stuff and then try to emulate it and then actually try to expand on it. So it's great.
Plus, you're building a whole new fan base. You're a tradition. I mean, this has been over 50 years. You're legendary. And your band really changed the face of the American music culture.
I think it did. I think we came along at a good time. I think music was terrific when FM Underground was happening in 1968, 69, 70. Unfortunately, it got taken over by commercial enterprises, and they started hiring people to program and tell the jocks what to say. But that's when it became commercial radio. But still, radio was so much a part of music at that point because artists could create and know that they could get airplay. They could get it out there and get it heard.
Sure.
Anymore, it's impossible. Other than for putting it on the internet, and that's a whole nother deal.
Oh, yeah. It's gotten so crazy in terms of music marketing. And it's kind of like throwing mud on a wall today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we came up in a really good time. I've got to say, I wouldn't trade our time period, late 60s to mid 70s, pre-disco. That was a wonderful time for music. I do believe that.
And you had such devoted fans. That had to have been so fun. I understand you got your first big break after playing at the Atlanta Pop Festival for about a crowd of 180,000.
Yeah, it was it was happenstance, really. We were kind of an unknown band out of Flint, Michigan, called the Pack and Terry Knight and the Pack. We had regional success with those bands, and we changed our name to Grand Funk Railroad to kind of come up with something new and to be reflective on where we're from. The Grand Trunk and Western Railroad ran through our town. Swartz Creek, Flint, the places we grew up.
Sure.
And so we took our name from that, because a new term for music had come along, funk.
Mm-hmm.
And to say Grand Funk instead of Grand Trunk, that was our kind of calling card. Back then it was a little risque. People said, "What did you say? Grand Funk?" It's not risque anymore.
No.
But anyway, it was it got a lot of attention. And so we became Grand Funk Railroad. And through a favor of a friend, he got us on the opening act of the first Atlanta Pop Festival, which was actually prior to Woodstock. We rented a van and borrowed a trailer and took all of our gear down to Atlanta and got on stage. And man, the audience just went crazy for this unknown band that nobody had ever heard of. and they loved it. So from there, it kind of word of mouth spread all through the South about this new band, Grand Funk Railroad, that tore it up at the Pop Festival. And that's where we got our start.
Yeah, you signed with Capitol Records and you released the Red album at the close of that year, wasn't it?
We used to release 2 albums a year. So yeah, the first album would have been On Time, and then the second album would have been Grand Funk. Yeah, every 6 months we were putting out a new album, but by contract. That's what it was called for in our contract.
I
Yeah.
think you've been called the biggest live rock act in America and one of the biggest titles of the generation.
We were always really great live, and that was always our thing. And you go into the studio and you're kind of suppressed. You have to do things a certain way. And you get on stage and you don't have to do anything anybody's way. You just do it your way. So we were really good live, and we became known as a live act. I mean, that's really it. I think the live albums that we cut, two of them, the Grand Funk Live and then Caught in the Act. I think they're both really good live albums, but they still just don't stand up to what the band is live.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a whole different experience. You've got people out there, you see them reacting. It's just got to be a whole lot of energy.
It is, and we play off that. As an entertainer, that's what you do. You play off the audience.
Sure.
If it's not a good night and the audience is sitting there on their hands, it's like, oh boy, we got to do something different. But if the audience is up on their feet and they're having a great time and they're loving it, that just spurs you on and lets you go in different. It's freedom. It gives you the freedom as an artist, as an entertainer, to take it a step further. And so it's great. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Well, you certainly had a fast climb to the top. In 1970, you returned to the Atlanta Pop Festival as headliners, and your live album was released with so many advanced sales, it earned a gold record before even hitting the shelves. Now, that's incredible.
That's incredible. Yeah.
I'm not sure I've ever heard of that.
Well, it's, pre-sales, you get the pre-sale. I mean, look at how they sell. Look at how they sell on Ticketmaster now. They pre-sell all the shows immediately.
Sure.
They sell out. It's technology, right? Yeah.
And of course, your song "We're an American Band," released in 1973, which you wrote. Wasn't that your first #1 hit single?
Oh, it was. We weren't big on singles up until that time. And we had made a change from FM underground. Well, radio had made a change from FM underground to FM pop radio at that time. This was like the end of 1972. So you couldn't make 7-minute songs anymore that they'd play on the radio. They wouldn't play them. You had to make 3-minute hit style records. And so we enlisted Todd Rundgren to help us out in the studio to make more of a commercial sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing some writing and singing, and we put out a great album. We're an American Band is probably one of our best albums ever. And it still stands up today, when you play it. So it's a great record. We cut it at Miami, at Criteria Studios in Miami with Todd Rundgren. And it was great. And the #1 hit single, I think it was that summer, 1973, wasn't it?
That was in July of 1973. It was released.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Last night in the rock put me in a haze. show. Feeling good, feeling right, it's Saturday night. The hotel detective, he was out of sight. Now these fine ladies, they had a plan. They was out to meet the boys in the band. They say, come on dudes, let's get it on. And we proceeded to tear that hotel down. We're an American band. We're an American band. We're coming to your town. We'll help you party it down. We're an American band. We're an American band. We're an American band. We're coming to your town. We'll help you party it down. We're an American band. We're an American band. We're an American band. We're coming to your town. We'll help you party it down. We're an American band. We're an American band. We're an American band. We're coming to your town. We'll help you party it down. We're an American band. We're an American band. We're an American band. We're an American band.
The Truckers Network helps professional drivers save money and makes their lives easier. We were created for drivers by a commercial driver. We know the industry and driver needs. A Truckers Network membership offers exclusive discounts through our trusted partners on things like truck care, truck parking, tires, oil changes, fuel additives, fitness, roadside assistance, first aid kits, driver training, and a whole lot more. Start saving today. Check us out at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. That's app.thetruckersnetwork.net. The trucking industry keeps America running thanks to the 3.36 million professional truck drivers who deliver everyday goods to 80% of American communities who rely on trucking for that last mile. The industry represents a diverse group with nearly half of drivers at 42% as minorities. Trucking Moves America Forward, or TNRS, educates the public on the essentiality of trucking by telling the story of trucking and its positive impact on our economy, communities, and lives. Learn how you can join the industry movement by visiting truckingmovesamerica.com. Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson, and I'm speaking with Don Brewer of Grand Funk Railroad. In our last segment, we were just listening to one of their huge hits, We're an American Band. That is one terrific song and very timely. You know, it just appealed to everybody.
Yeah, it was, I wasn't really trying to wave a flag when I wrote the song. I actually came up with the line, we're coming to your town, we'll help you party it down. We were flying around from town to town on a tour supporting the Phoenix album. And our former manager, Terry Knight, was suing us and suing every city we played in over a dispute over the name. It was a very kind of a depressing time, but we had to break out of it, and we had to come up with hit records, and we had to beat Terry Knight. Sure. And so I started, looking at writing some songs, and that was the first line that came to my head was, we're coming to your town, we'll help you party it down. And I wrote the song around that line, and I kept going over and over and over the song for days. And finally, I came up with the term "We're an American Band" simply because as I was playing the song, "We're an American Band" sounded great to sing. We're coming to your town, we'll help you party it down. We're an American band.
Yeah,
it sounded great. So that's where the song came. I wasn't waving a flag. It just sounded good.
No, but it really the crowds loved it. They were. At that time, they had their Bic lighters. I'm sure they were lighting them. It was like, yeah, right?
Sure, yeah.
Now they just use their cell phones to
yeah
do the same thing. But yeah, you had quite the challenge with Terry Knight. I was reading he even had your music equipment confiscated after a show at Madison Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden.
Oh,
That's right. And he came in the afternoon when we were there for sound check. He and a bunch of attorneys and they had police officers with them, and they got a court order that said that they were going to take the equipment. And then we actually had to go before a judge before the show to say, you can't cancel the show, before the show, get a sold out Madison Square Garden, you'll have a riot.
oh, heck yeah.
So the judge said, okay, go ahead and play the show, but then they're going to take the equipment after the show. So they took
Wow.
the equipment after the show. Unfortunately, we had plenty of other equipment to continue on, but it was just Terry being Terry.
I would say that was pretty dirty.
It was dirty, and he was a dirty guy. He not only did he take our equipment, he took a whole lot of our money. So he was a bad guy.
Yeah, I was reading that he took a much bigger percentage than he should have of your royalties.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we were just naive kids, and we got screwed, so to speak.
Yeah, that happened to a lot of artists. It's
Back
very
then.
sad. Yeah.
Yeah, back then in the 60s and the 70s, it was still the Wild West for artists. When the 80s came along, the lawyers all of a sudden switched their allegiance from the record companies to the artist, and then they beat up the record companies, and the artists started getting what they deserved. But unfortunately, we were prior to that. But
Yeah.
we've been fortunate to continue to tour and to continue to make records, and all that kind of stuff after the fact. And we came out okay, but what Terry did to us was bad.
Egregious would be a word.
Egregious.
Mhm.
That's a good word.
A lot of people can't spell it, but it means what it means.
Yeah, he got his due. So he's not around anymore. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, you're just documenting what he did. So
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you had another big single, Locomotion. That was your second #1 single, wasn't it?
It was, and we were looking for that, to come off of We're an American Band, and then we had another follow-up top 40 hit off of the We're an American Band album, Walk Like a Man. And so as we went into the next record, Shining On, we were in the studio again with Todd Rundgren, and we needed a follow-up. We needed to come up with another smash hit record, to follow up what we had coming off of the We're an American Band album. And we had finished, most of the recording. We had Shining On. We had a couple other, possibles. And we said, let's look at doing a cover. Let's do another song. And Todd suggested that we do Locomotion, and we all just went, are you crazy? Grand Funk Railroad doing the Locomotion, and so we tried it, and Todd worked his miracle ways in the studio, and I thought we came up with a great rendition.
Oh,
Probably
yeah.
it's even better known than the Little Eva version, of that song. So it's that came out of that. Really.
You were rocking that song, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt.
Woo! For the locomotion. Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. Come on, baby. Yeah. I know
TNCRadio.live is proud to carry the Steve Summers Overnight Drive Show. TNCRadio.live is dedicated to commercial drivers. We offer the news, traffic, and weather you need, and the entertainment, sports, talk, music, and celebrity interviews you want to hear 24/7. We have original shows and trucker podcasts that feature some of your favorites, like Ice Road Alex Debogorski and America's Truckin' Sweetheart Marcia Campbell. TNCRadio.live is convenient and designed for professional drivers. The best part is we're free, and you can listen anywhere you are on the road. With just one tap, you can tune into Steve Summers and us right on your phone. Simply download our app by going to app.tncradio.live. That's app.tncradio.live. Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson. I'm talking with Don Brewer of Grand Funk Railroad. We've been listening to some of their biggest hits. You guys definitely had some phenomenal hits. You had Some Kind of Wonderful, Don. That reached number 3 on the charts, didn't it?
Yeah, and it's probably the biggest hit worldwide, I think, that we ever had. I mean, maybe even bigger than We're an American Band. More people know us for that song, I think, than anything else. I get up and start singing. I don't need a whole lot of money. I don't need a big fine car. And pretty soon, the audience is singing louder than I am.
Sure.
And and it includes people that are grandchildren, children, parents, and grandparents. I mean, they're all out there singing the song, and it's, so it's, and everybody knows our version. And I don't think anybody really knows the original version by the Soul Brother Six. So it's, yeah.
No, it's a great song, no doubt.
It's a great song. Yeah.
I was reading your song, I'm Your Captain, from the album Closer to Home. That was popular among a lot of Vietnam vets. And it was even promoted on the billboard in New York City's Times Square.
Yeah, the first time that billboard had, or any billboard, any place in the country that large, it was a block long in Times Square, with our 3 faces on it. It was the biggest billboard that had ever been used for to promote a rock album. So that was a milestone. And then Closer to Home became just a huge hit, especially, later on, we discovered that all of the Vietnam vets that were returning from Vietnam would sing that song on the ships all the way home.
Wow.
They just all the time, they'd play that record over and over and over as they left Vietnam. And so it's very special to them.
Yes, that's phenomenal. You are a huge inspiration.
I'm feeling my
The Truckers Network helps professional drivers save money and makes their lives easier. We were created for drivers by a commercial driver. We know the industry and driver needs. A Truckers Network membership offers exclusive discounts through our trusted partners on things like truck care, truck parking, tires, oil changes, fuel additives, fitness, roadside assistance, first aid kits, driver training, and a whole lot more. Start saving today. Check us out at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. That's app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Welcome back to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson. I'm talking with Don Brewer of Grand Funk Railroad, a band that originated in Flint, Michigan. It influenced an entire generation. It really is amazing, the songs and what they meant to everyone, Don. You've been a huge influence, and I think it's wonderful that you're still going strong over 50 years later. A lot of bands can't say that.
That's right.
You've had a lot of different transitions. I think you disbanded at the end of 1982. Then you got back together in 1995. You personally toured, what was it, with Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band in 1983 as well as 1987. So there were a lot of transitions.
Yeah, and I toured with the Silver Bullet Band probably another, I'd say 6 or 7 tours from 2006 to 2015. That was kind of my second job as I was touring with Grand Funk Railroad, and which most of our tours at that time were in the summer. I'd go out in the winter and tour with Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. So, yeah, I mean, we've had a history with most of the guys in that band.
Sure.
Chris and Craig and alto, and as well as Bob. And history goes back a long time. And so, yeah, good friends. We've always been good buddies.
That's important, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
it is.
it had to been fun. I mean, obviously, you weren't bored. You were
Yeah, I
working all the
wasn't bored.
time. Uh-huh.
No,
What was
it was
it like to
a
work?
very good time period. And it's just I learned a lot by working with 2 bands. I learned a lot on not only musically and as an artist, but
Sure.
business wise. So I learned a lot of stuff.
Well, and that expands your musical ability, because I would think that
Sure.
doing the same stuff over and over and over, it probably gets a little old after a while, even though you love it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody asks me that. Do you ever get tired of playing these songs? And I don't. I must admit, I don't. I love the audience reaction. I love doing what I do. I'm very fortunate that I've been doing this since I was a kid. Since I was, as you said, I started my first band, I think, when I was 12 years old, and
Yeah.
yeah, I've been doing the same thing ever since. I mean, not many people can say they've done their dream their entire life. So
Very true.
that's pretty cool.
And if you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work.
It isn't work. No, it's
Mhm.
not.
And it's kind of like being, well, it's utopian in a way, but it's also like playing make believe. You're still a kid. You can be anybody you want to be on stage.
That's right. And I keep telling my wife and my daughter, I said, when it's time for me to stop, please tell me. But I enjoy being a ham on stage. I do. So
Mhm.
there you go.
That's what counts.
That's what counts. Yeah.
And it's wonderful. You guys are touring. Before I talked about that, I wanted to mention you've got a horse named Drummer.
Yeah.
That's
My
pretty
wife.
cool.
Yeah, my wife got into horses, and of course she named the horse Drummer after my profession. And he's a Pasifino. I don't know if you know about horses, but Pasifinos can do this little prance kind of a thing, which she equates to drumming. It's like they
Uh-huh.
tick 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 tick. It's kind of a silly little dance that they do, and so that's why he's Drummer.
I love it. I would say it's appropriate.
It's appropriate. It is.
Mhm. So did your band get back together in 2000? I think that's what I'd read. And it's
Yeah,
been going strong?
this incarnation of the band that has been touring for 23 years has been touring since 2000. With myself and Mel Shocker,
Hmm.
founding members of Grand Funk, along with Max Carl, formerly a 38 Special, and Jack Mack of the Heart Attack. He's our lead singer and just probably the last blue-eyed soul singer on the planet. Just a great guy and a great front man. We've got Bruce Kulick, who played with Kiss in the 80s when Kiss took their makeup off for probably about 10 years, and he played with them. And he's playing lead guitar with us. And Tim Cashin from Bob Seger's band and Robert Palmer's band, he's played with virtually everybody, is playing keyboards and singing backup with us. And that's the band that we've been touring with now for 23 years.
Excellent.
And it's just an awesome band.
Oh, I bet the crowds go wild. I mean,
they love it. Yeah.
You put on a heck of a show, and it brings, say, the youngins are there. They're like, wow, this is pretty cool. Is this the way they used to do it? You know,
we get that a lot from young people. Say, I didn't know old people could rock like that.
Oh, you gotta love that, don't you?
That's great. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you guys didn't invent music. Trust me, you know?
That's right. Yeah.
So where are you touring around the country right now?
Oh, everywhere. It's, we'll be from coast to coast, so we've got, we started out in January. We took a couple of months off, the end of March, and we picked back up in June. So we got another 30 shows to do. So we're going to do 40 shows this year. And, it's kind of to mark the 40th or the 50th anniversary of We're an American Band. Out on the road for 40 days, I guess it could be out on the road for 50 years, so there you go.
So do you like being on the road, or are you kind of glad to be home now and then?
Well, I like the way we tour, because we don't get on a bus and go and do 150 shows, some of the guys do, some of the bands do, and I couldn't do that. So, we fly every place, and we just mostly weekends, and we get to spend a lot of time at home. We fly out, we'll do a show or maybe 2 shows and then fly home. And so, we're home most of the time, just go out on the weekends and play a couple of shows and go home again.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
So it doesn't beat you up.
It doesn't beat us up too bad, other than just being on airplanes.
Well, yeah, that's a hassle in and of itself. But I imagine you guys get maybe some pretty decent treatment when you're a frequent flyer. So.
Oh yeah, we got all the frequent flyer miles. we're all million milers with Delta.
There you go. There you go. So for those who don't know, your band, Grand Funk, you recorded 13 gold and 10 platinum albums?
Correct.
That's amazing. That's historical. Yeah.
It is.
You're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, aren't you?
We are not, and
you should be.
Yeah, well, I think so too. And it's a political situation. It's controlled by, this is my little rant about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's controlled by Rolling Stone magazine, mm-hmm. and Rolling Stone magazine was never a big fan of Grand Funk Railroad, so it's political. I see a lot of acts that are inducted every year. That I go, that's not rock and roll. That's not rock and roll. Why are they being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? And here's Grand Funk, a great rock and roll band.
Yeah.
So it's it's political. So I gave up on trying to make anything happen that way, but it'll happen if it happens. There you go.
Well, I'm one of the first votes in your favor, definitely. Yeah. Everybody needs to write to them and say, hey, Grand Funk influenced an entire generation. They need to be in there.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. We could start a petition for you. How about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So where do people find your music? You've got a website, correct?
Oh, if you want to find anything about Grand Funk Railroad, go to grandfunkrailroad.com. We keep the website updated pretty well. We got a feature on there called Out on the Road. If you want to see pictures and read stories about the band on the road, that's where you go. And all the information you want to know is on there. I think there are several links where you can, probably download some music from Grand Funk if you want to, and so forth and so on. Probably Spotify, there's probably a link for Spotify on there. And so forth. So yeah, everything is on grandfunkrailroad.com.
And people can get tickets there as well, or do they need to go to
I don't
Ticketmaster?
know. Yeah, probably not tickets. You're
Mhm.
probably going to have to go to the venues for the tickets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I want to encourage people to come out and see you. And if they haven't ever experienced your band, they're going to be in for a treat.
Absolutely. It's a great show. They're going to love it. They're going to love the music and they're going to love the band. So, yeah, please come on out.
I really appreciate you being on the show here, Don. This is terrific.
Well, thank you, Shelley.
Don, it's been a pleasure and an honor speaking with you. For Grand Funk Railroad fans, don't go away just yet. I want to close out this episode of the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live with another huge hit from the group called Feelin' All Right. Thanks for listening, and be sure to check out the group at grandfunkrailroad.com. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson.
Seems I got to have a change in scene, 'cause every night I have the strangest dreams, imprisoned by the way things used to be, yeah. Left here on my own, or so it seems. I got to leave before I start to scream, 'cause somebody locked the door and took the key. Feeling alright, I'm not feeling too good myself. Feeling alright, I'm not feeling too good myself. Baby, you sure took me on one big ride. And even now I sit and wonder why. That when I think of you, I start to cry. I know I can't get upset and I must keep dry. I got to stop believing in all your lies, 'cause I got too much to do before I die. Feeling alright, I'm not feeling too good myself. I'm feeling alright, I'm not feeling too good myself. Oh, oh, oh.
Thank you for listening to another great interview on TNCRadio.live and the Truckers Network Radio Show. All of the material you hear on TNCRadio.live on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of TNCRadio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast of the Truckers Network Radio Show.